Warning, this video may contain spoilers for late parts in the game. If you plan on playing this at some point, turn back now. You have been warned. CR from One Up Boys here with another review. So far, I think this has been my favorite Wario Land, but maybe I'm getting ahead of myself because I haven't played 3 or Shake It yet. Overall, this is a completely solid title, but I have very little to complain about, especially with how much replayability there is in the game with multiple difficulties and challenges to be had. Let's start with some basics first. There isn't too many gameplay changes since Wario Land 2, but I'll explain the main things. The game is a side-scrolling platformer where you defeat enemies by jumping on their head and body slamming them, or throwing them into the other enemies. You can roll down slopes to break blocks, and new to the series is the charge, where you must be a certain distance away before charge body slamming harder rocks, though this can be used to charge through regular rocks as well. Transformations are still a thing though, with I think only one new form being Bat Wario. Unlike Wario Land 2, you can definitely die, as this time around you have 8 hearts, losing one upon touching damaging parts of enemies. On normal difficulty, you start every level with 4 hearts, and you can gain them through defeating enemies and picking up pieces of a heart to fill a gauge, finding hearts, or by finding a chest with a full heal. Also, yes, I said difficulty, as there is a hard mode as well as a super hard mode that unlocks after beating hard mode. These difficulties change placements of certain things as well as the time you have in order to do them. The main thing you do in each level is to find a key and an hourglass that activates a timer to actually get out of the level, as in each you enter through a portal that closes and can only be opened by activating the timer. You must also find 4 pieces of a jewel in each level in order to unlock the door to the boss of the area. Right before you get to the boss, you can find an item shop where you can buy items that damage the boss at various levels. However, you don't buy these items with the treasures you find. You have to play minigames in order to get special coins. There are 3, one I actually never played, but they are the Wario Hop, which is essentially just the no internet game on Google, Wario's Home Run Derby, it's just trying to get home runs, and Wario's Roulette, which is the one I didn't do, but it's apparently a matching game with a roulette system. These minigames also cost 5,000 points, which is just treasure, but you must do many of each to even get 1 coin. The roulette requires 3 correct combinations, the hop requires 15 hops, and the home run game needs 3 home runs in a row. In all of these, besides the home run game, you need to do them all in a row, and if you lose even one, it just kicks you out of the game. So yeah, in the home run, you actually have like fouls and strikes and stuff. You get 3 strikes, you're out. You know, it's a basic type thing. The story starts with Wario reading a newspaper and immediately racing in his car somewhere. He almost hits a black cat on the way, and the newspaper slaps it in its face. The cat seemingly reads it, seeing that a pyramid was discovered, possibly containing treasure. When Wario arrives to the pyramid, he runs in and finds the black cat from earlier, who guides him further into the pyramid. Wario falls into a pit and is forced to go through many trials in order to escape. In order to continue onward, Wario goes through the Hall of Hieroglyphs and ends up fighting the Spoiled Rotten. I'm going to go in the order I did things, as it doesn't really matter because you can do anything like however you want. But Wario enters the Topaz Palace, going through and eventually fighting the Aerodin. His next choice is to race through the terrifying Sapphire Passage and encounters the Cat Bat, who he defeats by jumping on its head. Wario's next choice is the Emerald Passage, where he comes face to face with Practice, stomping the plant to death. The final place Wario gets through is the Ruby Passage, fighting the Cuckoo Condor and destroying the bird with its own babies. The central Golden Pyramid opens up, and Wario ends up coming upon the Golden Diva, the cat from the beginning actually giving the first attack, though the Golden Diva actually absorbs it. Wario fights the 3 forms, eventually defeating it and freeing the cat. The pyramid starts to crumble and they escape, watching as it crumbles to nothing and laughing. The 4 pieces of jewelry that came out of each boss float around the cat and transform it into the beautiful Princess Shakora, who kisses Wario for his help to finally defeat the Golden Diva. She is then whisked away by angels and Wario heads home. A while later, Wario is again seen speeding in his car past a white cat, newspaper flying in its face too. The cat looks at the paper and sees an all-you-can-eat steak ad. Just like Wario Land 2, this game improves on the concepts from the previous entries. The soundtrack is great, gameplay is extremely fun, and replayability is through the roof with difficulty settings to test your skills. The way to get endings this time, test your skills in an interesting way as well, but I'll get into that more in the extras section. Finding the treasure feels really smooth and often blends really well with the layouts of each level, making the game flow really cleanly. The only things I didn't like too much are the minigames and the items, as the minigames aren't that fun to do in the first place, as unlike WarioWare, solely doing the games by yourself for little return is a little boring. I only tried out the first two and I only got 2 coins to be used to buy items, which I opted not to use. I wouldn't say the items are bad, but the effort to get the coins and the cost of some items just ended up making me not want to work toward them. This kind of turned into a pro though, as it tested my game skill of fighting all the bosses with no items and still getting all treasures. Alright, you might be wondering about the last bit about the 12 treasures. Well, every boss is timed and has 3 treasures in the background of the battle. When there is only 1 minute left, the treasures start to disappear one by one, so the goal is to beat each boss before the timer hits 1 minute. This includes the final boss, as even after gaining all 12 treasures, when 1 minute hits on the final boss, the treasures will also begin to fade away, so the main goal is to beat the bosses quickly. This is where the items come in to help, but at least for normal mode you won't really need them. On the harder difficulties the times goes down, so unless you're a god, you'll need the items. The 12 treasures are mostly just to show you the true form of Princess Shakura, as she has 4 forms depending on how much treasure you get. The endings are generally the same for each difficulty with some minor changes to what you see as Wario is driving home. In each level there are also CDs you can find, with there being 16 total, and you can listen to them in the sound room. You can unlock karaoke for the songs by achieving a treasure score of 10,000 points in all 18 levels of the game. Just like I said, I had a completely fantastic time playing through this game, and while I didn't play on the harder difficulty, I ended up throwing in the curveball of not using the helpful items to do extra damage to the bosses, and I had a fun time figuring out how to actually beat all the bosses in the first place in the allotted time, so I'm happy with the outcome I got. Hope you enjoyed, and see you next video.